Welcome to the Mobile Ministry Off the Grid workshop. Note that this session was not recorded live during the MMF consultation, so I apologize for the lack of interaction that you'll experience in what follows, but I've done my best to capture most of what was shared during the Q&A time, and I hope that you'll find this to be of value. In the next 25 minutes or so, I want to explore with you the why and how of mobile ministry done off the grid, and share a couple of examples of how this is playing out on the mission field. First, let me briefly share what I mean by off the grid, as this idiom may not be familiar to everyone. You hear it often used to talk about people who are living off the land and not wanting their activities or their whereabouts to be tracked. They don't use credit cards and they avoid any other services or activities that could expose their identity or location. Other similar phrases include flying under the radar and going dark. This may sound like a strange idea when we're talking about mobiles and how the world is now hyper-connected through them via the internet, social media, and other tools. So let me begin by introducing you to a couple of people whose stories shed some light on why to consider doing mobile ministry off the grid. Rashid comes from a long line of shepherds. Most days he's busy caring for his sheep and goats out in the fields or up in the foothills. Despite some of the remote areas that he finds himself in, he often does have cellular service, but not always. Music and videos in his own language help him pass the long days of shepherding. However, data services, when they are available, are typically too expensive for him and for most others in his country. So, they rely mainly on Bluetooth for sharing media. It's faster and it's cheaper than trying to download things from the internet. Zukra is a young woman, a follower of Jesus, from a Muslim background, who, like all of her friends, carries her phone with her everywhere. She's excited about how Isa al-Masih, or Jesus, has changed her life and given her hope and peace for the very first time in her life. And she's eager to tell others about him. Many people in her city want to learn more about God, but a friend of hers, a missionary, told her how the government carefully censors what happens over mobile networks, voice, text, and data, as well as the internet. Zukra needs an easy but secure way of sharing resources about Jesus with those who are interested. Rashid and Zukra represent the two main reasons we're having this discussion. Zukra's main issue is security. In many of the countries where the gospel has yet to penetrate, security is a major issue. If you've not already done so, I encourage you to listen to the presentation titled The Illusion of Mobile Security, which will open your eyes to what telecom companies and foreign governments can do to track and determine or find out information about your activities through your mobile phone. Rashid's main issue is access. Many, if not most, mobile users around the world deal with limited or no cellular data service, either because it is not available or more often because it's not affordable. The wonderful thing about mobiles, however, is that there are many ways to use them effectively, even to share media, without having to have or pay for data service, or risking discovery by those who are monitoring online activities. Most attention in the mobile arena today focuses on things like fancy apps, mobile web, and other features that are heavily reliant on expensive data services. Yet the reality is that most of those who have limited or no access to the gospel are not able to take advantage of these mobile features because of these two aspects of access and security. In this session, I'm going to highlight some of the mobile devices available, as well as some of the features available on today's mobiles that allow us to do mobile ministry off the grid. We'll also take a brief look at Estante, an app that should be a great resource for mobile ministry. And then we'll briefly consider two recent examples of ministry being done off the grid. For the next few slides, I want to share with you several portable Wi-Fi storage devices. The Kingston Y Drive is the first of these. Now, what exactly is a portable Wi-Fi storage device, and why does it matter to us? Well, this is basically a small portable hard drive, but it includes two key features that make it far more powerful than basic portable drives and make it very useful for mobile ministry. First, it broadcasts a Wi-Fi signal so that Wi-Fi enabled devices like mobiles and tablets can connect to it just as they would any Wi-Fi signal. You are not connecting to the internet. Instead, the Wi-Fi signal connects directly to the storage device so that users can access the content stored on the device. The second important feature is that it includes a built-in battery. This Kingston Y drive can power the device for about 4 hours, and you can run it on AC power too if need be. This means that you can take this device with you anywhere, the car, on a plane, in the middle of the desert, wherever you happen to be, and provide yourselves and others wireless access to whatever is stored on the device. As you can see, the Kingston Y drive is small and light. It'll easily fit in the palm of your hand or slide into a pocket. It currently comes in 4 sizes, 16, 32, and 64 gigabytes, and they've just released a 128 gigabyte drive as well. Now that's plenty of storage for audio, video, ebooks, photos, and other types of content. It can support around 8 concurrent connections, including around 3 streaming video connections. Amazon's been featuring the 32 gig model for about $50 for the past few months, which is a very attractive price if you want to give one of these Wi-Fi devices a try. Now, the cool factor aside, the important question for us to ask right now is, how might you use this to do ministry off the grid? Well, let's say you're discipling a few men. You gather for a lesson that includes a Bible study and a clip from the Jesus film that provides a video illustration of the lesson. When you're done, you want to be able to pass that Bible study and video clip on to the men in the group so they can go back and share it with their families and others. Before the study, simply load the content onto the Y drive. Then, while you're together, turn the Y drive on and have them connect to it with their mobiles via Wi-Fi and download the files. Or let's say that for security reasons, you want to pass the files along to them, but don't want to be seen interacting directly with them or be seen giving them anything. In this situation, you could password protect the Wi-Fi signal, then provide the password to them ahead of time, and let them know that you'll be at the tea house at a certain time, let's say 9 o'clock. When you arrive, you simply turn on the Y drive, and you leave it out of sight, in your pocket or purse or a bag, whatever. When the others arrive, they can securely connect to the Y drive to securely download the resources to their devices and then leave. Aside from possibly seeing a secured Wi-Fi signal, no one else in the cafe would have any idea that any of this ever transpired. Yet another idea is to load some contextualized resources, videos, stories, whatever, and turn the Y drive on without requiring a password. Name the signal something that would draw attention, such as free Wi-Fi or free movies. Who can resist an offer like that, right? We all love free stuff, especially movies. No one knows where the signal's coming from unless you want them to know, and they just know that there's access free of charge to a media server. This would be an easy way to do some light evangelism and to distribute things like the Jesus film or the Bible in digital format in a way that costs nothing and draws little attention. The Seagate GoFlex satellite is very similar to the Kingston Y drive, but it's slightly larger and heavier. It's still pocketable, but it includes a 500 gigabyte drive, which allows you to store a massive amount of data. It's also got better battery life, and it supports more connections, I think around 10, and it can stream HD video up to around 30 feet. Like the Y drive, apps are available for iOS and Android devices, which make navigating the content much easier. Or you can connect via your favorite web browser. This drive currently runs around $180 on Amazon.com. However, Seagate just released a newer version which includes a 1 terabyte drive and maybe some additional small enhancements for about the same price. So check for the newer version if you shop for this. The Maxell AirStash may be my favorite of this type of these devices. It's smaller than the others, just about maybe the size of a pack of gum. But it will run for up to 10 hours on a single charge and can support up to 9 concurrent connections. The big difference is that it uses standard SD cards so that you can easily swap out the content that you're broadcasting. Prices for this device start at around $120, which includes a 8 gigabyte SD card, which you can then easily and affordably swap for a larger card. The company behind this device is very customer oriented and are actively developing the product and adding new features, which I really like. By the way, beyond the other ministry uses that I mentioned for these devices, there's some other great ways to use them. For example, it's a great way of adding storage to your existing mobile devices, especially iOS devices. Most of you are probably aware that iOS devices don't include any kind of memory card slot. I've got a 16 gig iPad and am continually frustrated because I'm always running out of space. Now I keep all of my large media files, my music, podcast, videos, on my AirStash, and that keeps space on my iPad free for apps and other kinds of data. Another use of these devices is to share resources at conferences such as this. In the live version of this presentation, I turned my AirStash on so that attendees could download the presentation and other resources while I was talking, instead of my having to pass around a thumb drive. We're all used to doing that at conferences, right? And I've heard of parents, I confess I'm one of them, using this on long road trips with their kids, enabling them to each choose their own videos to watch on their mobile devices to help them pass the time, right? Remember, it's got that streaming video capability. So these really are handy devices, which I highly recommend. I want to mention one more of these, and it's the Overdrive Pro 3G, 4G mobile hotspot. This one is a little bit different. It's pretty tiny. It's about 2 by 2 inches, and it's really designed to provide a mobile internet hotspot. You have to get a SIM card from your telecom company and then pay for the data service. And then when you attach to this device via Wi-Fi, you get access to the mobile internet service. What's great about this model, and probably some others, is that it also includes a micro SD card slot. This allows you to use it without a SIM card in just the same way as the Y-Drive, the Satellite GoFlex, and the AirStash. This device is also a bit cheaper. In November 2012, I paid around $40 for mine. And it has the ability to take the SIM card for mobile internet service too, which really makes it a dynamic little device to have for a very low price. Well, let's change gears a little bit now and take a look at some of the technologies that are being built into mobile phones that allow us to share media and do other ministry off the grid. The first of these is called Wi-Fi Direct. Wi-Fi Direct is a new technology for setting up peer-to-peer wireless networks between multiple devices. It's very easy to use, much easier than some other technologies like Bluetooth. And I think it's included now on most devices running Android Jelly Bean or Ice Cream Sandwich. It works quite well, very reliable, and I think you can connect up to about 6 devices at any one time. So definitely look for this. This is another great reason to consider an Android device if you're shopping for a new phone or tablet. Micro SD cards. I refer to these as the mighty micro. There's a few reasons for that. First, nearly every non-iOS phone around the world, including virtually all feature phones, have a micro SD card slot. This makes it an ideal way for sharing content all over the world. Second, micro SD cards are cheap. A 2 or 4 gigabyte card can often be found for under $5, yet are large enough to store an entire library of gospel resources. I'll give an example of that at the end of the presentation. Third, they're very easy to work with. Most come with an SD card adapter so that you can plug them into any full-size SD card slot. And nearly every card reader today, including those on most newer notebook computers, have a slot for SD cards. This allows you to quickly and easily transfer content from a computer or other device onto the card. Using them requires very little technical ability, so they're much easier to use than Bluetooth connections or even NFC or Wi-Fi Direct. Fourth and finally, micro SD cards are tiny and very easy to conceal. You can easily carry hundreds of these with you at a time with very little effort. I mean, you could even fit those right in your pants pocket. They're very easy to conceal, and there are some pretty neat tools out now for those who really need to be discreet. You can see how these coins on the screen here easily hide a single micro SD card. And the quality of these coins is actually quite good. If I were to put one of these in a handful of real coins and pull it out of my pocket, you would really have to know what you were looking for to tell that it was not a real coin. These coins are just one example of several types of gadgets now being developed to conceal micro SD cards. So if you're working in a very risky environment, this might be a useful tool to have. As I mentioned before, worth noting again, iOS devices do not have micro SD card slots, nor do they currently support Wi-Fi Direct or NFC. So again, this is another reason to consider an Android or other type of mobile device over an iPhone or an iPad. NFC. If you've not heard of NFC technology, you will soon. NFC stands for Near Field Communications, and it's considered probably the next big thing in mobile technology. It's a very fast, very easy wireless technology that is showing up on more and more mobile devices. I have a Samsung Galaxy S3 phone and an Asus Windows 8 tablet. Both include NFC technology. Like Wi-Fi Direct, NFC is fairly easy to use, maybe even more so than Wi-Fi Direct. And you'll see it being used for many things: mobile payment systems, security badges, electronic ticketing for air travel, etc. For our purposes, it's a very secure way of sharing content between devices. It has a range of only around 4 inches, so it's all but impossible for others around you to tap into the signal, and it's very fast, so it's conducive for sharing larger files like videos. If you've seen the TV commercials for Samsung where people tap their phones together and they share music or videos, that's NFC technology at work, though it's probably not quite as instantaneous as they make it appear on TV. In the notes for the PowerPoint, I did include a link to a video overview of NFC technology, so I encourage you to take a look at that to learn a little bit more. And on to Bluetooth. As was suggested in my story of Rashid earlier, the king of mobile file transfer techniques around the world right now is Bluetooth. Bluetooth is a close proximity wireless networking technology that's been around for a long time. Most of us have very little experience with using Bluetooth aside from perhaps those funny little earpieces that we see people running around with at times when it looks like they're talking to themselves. But it's used for far more extensively in much of the world, perhaps because they don't have all of the other file sharing options that many of us in the West have. I believe the statistic I've seen is that around 83% of all mobiles in use around the world today, and 90% of those currently being shipped, are Bluetooth capable. Because of this, every cross-cultural worker on the mission field today should get familiar with how to use Bluetooth to share media and other content. There's some slight variations in how Bluetooth may work on different types of phones, so it's not always the most straightforward tool to use, but there are plenty of tutorials available on YouTube and elsewhere that can step you through how to use it on your particular device. And, of course, most of your local friends that you would want to share with already use Bluetooth and would be, I'm sure, only too happy to teach you how to use it yourself. That'd be a great opportunity and open up some great doors for you to actually share some things on your phone, in fact. So I would encourage people to look to their local friends to learn how to use Bluetooth. For our purposes, what good is Bluetooth for doing ministry off the grid? Well, its ubiquity makes it an ideal tool for sharing audio and video clips or other content. It's reasonably secure, with a range of typically around 30 feet or 10 meters. So it's not easily monitored without some kind of physical presence within that range. You can also use a security code to make the connection, which is not rock solid security, but it's sufficient to bar all but really the technically savvy people from intercepting what is being shared. And of course, Bluetooth does not require any kind of data connection or cellular service for it to work. I do want to mention a special type of Bluetooth technology called Bluetooth broadcasting, or bluecasting. This takes Bluetooth sharing to a higher level. It utilizes a special box that broadcasts a Bluetooth connection or a signal over a much longer distance. Again, because Bluetooth isn't used as much here in America, we're less familiar with this, but in some parts of the world, like India, this technology is much more common. I've seen many examples of bluecasting done in malls where they would have a kiosk set up and it would be broadcasting out that Bluetooth signal, and people are accustomed to looking for those signals. And when you connect, it may give you coupons for some stores or restaurants in the mall, or let you know of some special deals or events that are going on, that sort of thing. The devices listed in the table here can support a large number of concurrent connections, up to 28, and can broadcast up to 400 meters. But I've heard of others with a range of up to 2 kilometers. Content can be stored on these devices or on drives that are connected to them, allowing them to deliver content. I've heard of a few ways of these being used. An acquaintance in the Middle East recently mentioned using a device like this to transmit a signal to a nearby village, which allowed people in that village to access gospel-oriented videos designed for mobiles. Another option is to put these in or near a public area where there's lots of pedestrian traffic, like the shopping mall that I mentioned earlier. This, of course, is less off the grid in terms of security, but it presents great opportunities for mass evangelism. A quick side note, you'll notice that some of these devices in this table here support Wi-Fi as well. The purpose is the same, it's just a different technology for actually allowing people to connect to that content. Well, as we talk about some of these different devices and technologies, one thing ought to become very clear. Any conversation about ministry off the grid needs to touch on the issue of power. Our mobiles and other devices all demand one thing that's often lacking in much of the developing world, and that again is power. But there are now a variety of vendors making solar panels for consumer use. One that I've tried with great success is Goal Zero. The panel shown above is rugged and ultra lightweight. It's very difficult to break, so it's very much field ready. And coupled with a battery pack, it runs about $75, so it's quite affordable. This would be suitable for powering or charging smaller electronics like a mobile phone or a tablet. Larger panels are available for more demanding gadgets, and the panels can actually be daisy-chained together to provide even more power if need be. So at this price level, this is a great investment for anybody working in an area with unreliable power, including people here in America who may live in storm-prone areas like the Atlantic seaboard. I don't show this here, but there are also a number of devices out now that provide backup power for our mobile devices. These typically just plug into the wall, it charges up an internal battery, and then you can plug your mobile device, your phone or other device, into that little pack to provide power on the go. Those are also very worth checking into, and they run starting at about $25 for a model that would recharge your cell phone one time, on up to around $100 for devices that have much more powerful batteries and could charge several phones or easily provide a complete charge for a tablet. While we're talking about solar power, I do want to mention a group called Renew Outreach. They're a like-minded vendor of portable power solutions, and they've been working for many years to address the need for power in remote areas for things like showing the Jesus film in the Amazon. During the ministry reports earlier at the MMF consultation, we heard about some of the neat products that Renew's developing, including this lamppost concept shown here. This lamppost would provide a solar-powered charging station for mobiles in areas where there's no or very little electricity. In addition to providing charging ports, this station could also store a variety of gospel resources for people to access through Bluetooth or a localized Wi-Fi signal. Users could connect to that as a media server and then download again the Bible or Jesus film or things like that. Some great stuff coming out by Renew Outreach, so I encourage you to check them out. Their URL is www.renewoutreach.com. Estante is another awesome tool that we heard about in the ministry reports, and one that I'm particularly excited about. It's a new app for Android devices that is soon to be released by MAF-LT, which is the learning technology arm of Mission Aviation Fellowship. I just spoke with the lead developer, and right now they're looking at a March 2013 release for this. So definitely keep your eyes open for it. I'm going to pull up a few screenshots while I share, but make a note of the URL here so that you can learn more. It's www.maflt.org/estante, E-S-T-A-N-T-E, maflt.org/estante. I see three ways that it can really benefit people. First, and this is not reflected in the slides at all, but it provides a basic level of security for sensitive media. The name of the app itself is not suggestive of anything religious, which is really, I think, a real positive. Even better, if you run the app, I believe it will appear as a functional utility app of some sort. Since this is being recorded and publicly available on the net, this presentation, I'll leave it at that. But the idea is that pressing a certain series of keys or performing a gesture of some sort will unlock the hidden library app. This would be great, for example, if you were stopped by someone in authority who confiscated or wanted to at least inspect your phone. It would easily conceal. They would think this is just a normal app and not have any idea that there's anything more to it than that little utility app that they first see when they open it. Second, as the previous screen stated, this is a digital library in the palm of your hand. This tackles the issue of media organization. If you've ever tried to find a media resource on your phone, you probably know that it can be quite a challenge. Some people have taken the time to develop a well-organized folder structure for storing resources, but most, including me, haven't. Estante solves this issue by providing an attractive, intuitive library solution for all of your ministry-related media. Ebooks, photos, videos, podcasts, documents, even e-learning courses can be stored in the Estante library. And then resources can be tagged and browsed by type or by topic. So it makes it great not only for organizing your media, but for finding it very quickly as well. Which brings us to the third reason why this is going to be such a great app. It makes sharing resources much easier to do. The sharing options are based on options within the Android operating system. So there will be a variety of options for sharing that we've already discussed: Bluetooth, email, NFC, and Wi-Fi Direct. And it won't require much learning because you'd already be accustomed to using these options on your Android phone anyway. It's important to note that Estante will only run on Android devices, at least for the time being. However, you are able to share resources from your library with non-Android devices, including iPhones and feature phones. So you don't even need a smartphone to receive resources. You could transfer them to almost any device using a technology like Bluetooth. There's a lot more that I could share about Estante, so again, I encourage you to visit the website, www.maflt.org/Estante, and keep your eyes and ears open for the official release of this app. So, we've seen why ministry off the grid is necessary and how it can be done. How are people actually doing this already? You may have your own stories to share, and if so, I encourage you to do so by making those available to the Mobile Ministry Forum partners. The more we share real stories, the more our vision is going to be expanded for what can be done and how. So let's be in the habit of sharing those stories with one another. For now, I want to mention a couple of examples that I'm aware of. The first is the work of a group called Kiosk Evangelism. We heard a devotional and have heard mentioned at other times, a great man named Stephen Keel. He was a real visionary and doer, and one of the men who helped start the Mobile Ministry Forum, but also worked very hard to get mobile ministry onto our radar screens. Stephen was a really gifted man, and one of his efforts, again, was called Kiosk Evangelism. His website is still active. Stephen passed away recently, but his website is still active, so I encourage you to take a look. The URL is www.kiosk, Kiosk, evangelism.org. Kioskevangelism.org. There's some good reports there about some of the activities over the past couple of years. This particular shot here is taken from a mobile evangelism training workday or workshop that was conducted in October 2011 in Bihar, India. Following a 10-day trip that included many jungle villages in Nepal, one of the participants, a guy by the name of Moses Abraham, reported, according to my calculation, 60 received Telugu Bible audio Bibles, and 80 received materials in their cell phones, and most of them received the Jesus film clips. Isn't that exciting? This is a great example of training mobile evangelists and sending them out with resources both for their own ongoing learning as well as being able to pass along resources, gospel resources, to those with whom they're sharing the gospel. A second example that I wanted to mention is the great work being done by the Digital Bible Society. One of our speakers here this week was John Dyer from Dallas Theological Seminary, and he also works with the Digital Bible Society. Again, note the URL on the screen there, www.digitalbiblesociety.com. And take some time later to browse their site to get a better feel for what they're doing. Among DBS's projects are digital Bible libraries. These are collections of Bibles and related gospel resources that are being organized and stored on micro SD cards for easy distribution. The screen here mentions the Persian Treasures Collection, which would be useful in places like Iran and Tajikistan and some parts of Afghanistan. They also have Arabic and Chinese language collections, and I believe they're adding more language collections as well. This is another great collaborative effort where some organizations have willingly shared their content, and others, I believe, are involved on the distribution side. If I recall correctly, DPS worked with partners during the Olympics, the 2012 Olympics in London this past year, to distribute thousands of these digital libraries. So a really neat way of doing ministry off the grid. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation. I encourage you to take some time to further investigate some of the products and tools and technologies that we've looked at briefly here, and to share this with others in your organization that may be of interest, who may find this to be of interest. I welcome any questions you may have. You can write me at greatcomworkers@gmail.com or on Twitter at KingdomGuy1. greatcomworkers@gmail.com or on Twitter at KingdomGuy1. Thank you very much.